This episode of The Construction Record is brought to you by the Ontario Sewer and Water Main Construction Association. Clean water is everybody's business.
Hello everyone, Vince Versace here, National Managing Editor of the Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce, joining you today. I just wanted to speak with you quickly about some items we wanted to bring to the attention of our listeners and our readers before we get into this week's episode. And what we wanted to bring to your attention are a couple of things. One, we now have a group on LinkedIn for this podcast. So if you want to follow the podcast on LinkedIn, please join our group. Just in the search bar on LinkedIn, type in The Construction Record, and it'll lead you to our page, The Construction Record Podcast. So we would love to connect with you there on LinkedIn so we can share episodes, story ideas with you, and also hear from you and get feedback from you or story ideas right there on that LinkedIn group for The Construction Record. As well, you can now find The Construction Record on Twitter. We finally have launched a Twitter account dedicated strictly to the podcast. So if you want to follow us there, by all means, look for at @TCR_cast in the search, and you should be able to find the Construction Record. Once again, the account handle on Twitter is at, in capital, TCR_C, then AST. So that's at TCR_cast on Twitter, and that'll lead you to our Twitter account for this podcast, where we would love to interact with you there as well. And one last housekeeping item is we're excited to unveil something with you on February 3rd. We're just going to tease it to you that way, that the Construction Record is going to be adding something to its podcasting repertoire for you, our listeners in construction. So stay tuned. We'll be launching it on Wednesday, February 3rd. With that, here we go to the episode. Thank you, everyone.
This feature interview is brought to you by the Greater Toronto Sewer and Water Main Contractors Association, building water and sewer infrastructure excellence since 1957.
Hello, everyone. This is Vince Versace, National Managing Editor of the Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce, joining you today for episode 104 of the Construction Record Podcast. Joining me today is John Reid, co-founder of Faber Connect, which is based in Vancouver. John, thank you so much for making some time to join us today.
Thank you very much for having me on the podcast, Vince. I know it's a long time coming. We've been going back and forth a little bit on the scheduling side of things, but I'm happy to be number 104 on the list. Fortunately, didn't get that 100 spot, but that's all right. Again, just super happy to talk about, Faber's successes, our story, and really how we're trying to, bring in change to the industry.
Oh, no problem. I tried to make up with it, with the green room Smarties and the extra sparkling water as you waited, for not making the 100th episode. But, all the same, I'm excited to talk about what you do and what Faber does. Because I sometimes think it could be also a bellwether of where the labor market is right now, considering what COVID happened and where it may be heading. So I'd love to hear what you're seeing from your app and through your role that you have in the industry. But maybe for our listeners that aren't familiar with Faber, if you could give them a bit of an overview.
Yeah, totally. Faber is a two-sided marketplace that helps construction companies connect with the best quality construction workers. When we first started this company, we had a vision to build a connected workforce, proudly building a better world. And, that was kind of the vision statement that we set out, moving forward as we continue to build this company. And I think the, mission-driven statement that we want to really impact our vision is, leveraging technical innovation to empower and grow a better construction workforce. And really the two words that stick out to us the most are the empower and the grow, right? I think on the worker side is a lot of these workers do feel really undervalued. And it's really important that we, as we move into 2021 and, continue to grow the construction industry, that we have to really empower these people. They're the lifeblood of the industry. They're what makes buildings go up. And that's super important to us here at Faber. And then obviously, growing a better construction workforce, right?
Hmm.
We talk a lot about unskilled workers, skilled trade shortages, not a lot of people entering the construction workforce. And, Faber's mission critical is how do we build that workforce up and, attract people that might have not thought construction was a career they wanted to go into. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about kind of what Faber's mission is, what our vision is, and I can go into all the details on how we make it all happen later in
I'd
the
love
podcast.
to. I think that would be a benefit because I think it speaks to a unique plank into construction, the space of innovation and trying to use tech to create better tech connections and efficiencies. I think that might be of interest because you're on both sides of the border, both in Canada and in the U.S. as well. But please let us know how do you make all those connections happen?
Yeah, totally. Vince, again, you hit the nail on the head there. No pun intended. We are across, the United States and in Canada here, and really how we make it happen. It's pretty simple. A construction company signs up, just like they would sign up for Uber if you were a consumer. And basically, what you're able to do is you're able to set up your project. You're able to put in all the details that you need there, your PO, all that. So that's all set up perfectly, and then we just have a request worker button, and you basically choose the skill level that you want the worker to have, the time you want that worker to show up, and all those goods and details there. And you actually get to choose the hourly rate that you want to pay the worker. That's pretty much unheard of in the construction space of actually allowing the construction company to pick the price they want to pay the worker. Most temp agencies have your standard base bill rate kind of set in stone. And we actually, are super transparent and let the construction company pick what they feel they want to pay the worker. And we just send that out to an open marketplace of vetted construction workers on the worker side of things. And those workers can then see those job requests that come in from, companies that are on the ENR list, and some of the larger general contractors here in Canada and the subtrades. And they basically can accept those jobs. Those profiles become visible for the contractor to be able to see. And, they can see things like rating and reviews, past job history, how many hours they've logged on the platform, any endorsements they might have. So it really just becomes way more transparent compared to using an outdated temporary labor agency or having to use, LinkedIn or Craigslist in order to bring in a workforce.
So interesting. How does that that vetted pool you mentioned of workers, how does that come to be with you through Faber? Is that voluntary, people finding you out, or do you seek out some of these workers? How does that happen?
Yeah, it was funny when we first started. A lot of it obviously came from advertising, and I think one of the the benefits that we have here is we kind of have a good secret sauce built in house to kind of attract people to obviously download the app and set up a profile. But what we've seen to be a super big success here is just word of mouth. Construction workers have such a great experience using our app. That they refer their friends a lot of the time to pick up side work or pick up full-time or part-time or temporary work. So that's been a really big success for us, and I really think it comes back to our mission statement, right, of really trying to empower our workforce and put the power back into the workers' hands. And we've been trying to do that since day one, and that's I think what's really driven our success there. And then on the vetting side and the verification side, obviously checking references, background checks, all of those sort of things, just to make sure that the people have the skills that they say they have. But I think one of the biggest value adds is the rating and review feature. I think we're the only company that really takes into account a transparent two-sided rating and review system where the worker actually rates the customer and the worker also gets rated by the customer. So it's in the best interest of both people to work as transparent and as great as possible.
Interesting. So that's where we kind of head to that bellwether term that I use. I was curious, considering what's happened with the pandemic, COVID-19, did you see an uptick or slowdown of that vetted pool of yours growing, or people looking for, and plus, the construction, the owner GC side of thing, I'll say, people looking for the workers. How did you see that play out in your space since March?
Yeah, it was an interesting one for sure. I think when, forecasting back to 2020 is like, January, February, March, unreal growth tick. I think everyone was on this skyrocket ship. And then when COVID hit, we definitely saw a bit of a decline once a lot of those like CERB programs started to come into play. A lot of construction sites either got shut down if there was a COVID case and things like that. So yeah, we definitely saw a bit of a slowdown into Q2 and slowly saw a ramp into Q3 and are slowly seeing this ramp back up into Q4. On the general contractor side of things, or the subtrade side of things is, we were getting some orders that were in there for people. And, a lot of construction companies, I think we're looking at innovative ways to be a little bit, more cost efficient. And, I think that's where Faber comes into a big play, right? Is using gig economy workforce in order to fill the gaps in maybe your full-time staff, right? That might need to take some time off because of the pandemic, obviously, right? And be there with their kids or whatnot. So, it was kind of a mixed bag, Vince, but, looking into 2021, I think we're just about over the horizon, fingers crossed, with this vaccine and everything. And I think everyone's just looking for things to go back to normal. I know bids had been pushed back and certain things like that. So, I'm sticking to my positive guns here, and I'm thinking 2021 is going to be an amazing year for the construction.
Did, you think about, and we did it too, from an editorial point of view, you have certain plans and certain expectations for a year, so you think back to January of 2020 and you're like, okay, this is what we're going to be covering. This is what we're going to be doing. How did your roadmap change, based on what you hoped you were going to try doing in 2020 to what actually ended up happening? And were there any changes that COVID caused you to make?
Well, that's a great question there, Vincent. We actually launched Dallas, our kind of first US expansion in January of 2020. And so launching a market in a global pandemic isn't always, the greatest idea, right? But we stuck to our guns on that roadmap, and it turned out to be super fruitful for us. That market's growing almost 2.5x. Month over month, and on a really great skyrocket there. So, I think our roadmap definitely didn't necessarily change, but we were more cautious and more data driven week by week to make sure that we were making the right decisions and the targets were obviously achievable and set there. And so, I think what made Faber so successful, given the fact that there was a pandemic, was just the team that we have built out and the people that are around it, and really getting everyone bought in on the mission and vision, I think was so crucial for us during COVID.
So looking forward then, any new markets, any new, I go to the website, go to your website, and it talks about, the variable pricing per se. You had a blog post about that, right? Any other type of innovations or changes that you want to share with the audience for 2021, or new markets you may be heading into?
Yeah, so I'll talk about one of my favorite features, and I'm super excited about this one that we just rolled out. Is we actually gave the ability for construction workers to set the hourly price that they want to make. So a carpenter can now onboard to the Faber platform and, say he's getting paid $45 an hour currently from his subcontractor. He can come onto the Faber platform and he can basically individually as a worker bid on job cards and say, hey, I'll work this job for $55 an hour or whatever he wants to get billed at. And it's totally up to him. We handle all the insurance, all the compliance. And I'm very excited for that feature to roll out, because I think there's a lot of people that do like kind of being their own boss and working for themselves and choosing their schedule. And, thinking back to kind of the oil and gas days in Calgary, the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off model, I think makes a lot of sense for the construction industry. And I think a lot of workers are going to start to migrate to the Faber platform, seeing how they can choose their own schedule, but more importantly, choose whatever they think they feel that they're valued at, right, with their skills and their experience.
So how do you, in that case, we've discussed this a little bit before the interview, kind of the fragmented nature of construction, let alone the labor side of construction. How do you meander? How do you kind of balance the unions, the non-union groups that have workers? Or do you get any type of testimonials from some of those folks that are okay with what you're doing? Do you get a lot of pushback? Maybe you can give us some insights to the listeners.
Yeah, totally. Non-union
Mm,
and union conversations come up quite often. I
mm,
think especially when we look at launching markets, right?
mm,
BC is pretty open shop for the most part
mm,
when it comes to projects, and I could kind of go back and forth why
mm.
unions aren't the right call or non-union workers aren't the right call, but
Right.
really, I think brushing that all aside, I think what Faber is trying to do is empower the worker, regardless if they're a union member or a non-union member.
Hmm.
And that starts with obviously, you know, putting more money back into their hardworking pockets. I think there's a lot of people that get billed out extremely high and don't actually reap the benefits that are there. I know some of the listeners might be raising their eyebrows there, but I think it's true, right? I think that's the reason why a lot of people don't enter the construction space is there's kind of this not bad culture, but this unfortunately there's an interesting culture that comes with construction, and we're obviously trying to really empower that workforce to speak up and everything like that. So
All right. So if people want to learn a bit more about Faber, how can they reach you? What can they do?
yeah, they can simply go to our website. It's www.faberconnect.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just John Reid. Search me up there. I'm always willing to have conversations with people, and I love debating on a lot of topics when it comes to labor and trades. So, yeah, Vince, again, really happy to be on this podcast, and thank you for getting this all set up.
No problem, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your patience because I know we had to kind of juggle schedules a bit. But more than anything else, I hope to have you back because I think there's something here that you're doing and some other the innovative tech companies that we need to explore a bit more in 2021. And I'd love to have you on a panel with a few other folks as
Yeah,
well to kind
likewise,
of brainstorm and just talk different concepts. So
totally.
yeah,
Um, I think definitely as the construction technology category starts to grow, and whether it's CLT, mass timber, modular, project management softwares, I think looking at the Canadian landscape, there's a lot of great Canadian construction technologies that are starting to pop up. And I think it's just so important that we start to highlight those breadwinners that are in the Canadian ecosystem that are growing across Canada or growing across the U.S. So yeah.
definitely completely agree. So thank you so much again, John. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben.